Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. It's Bear here. And I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, aboxwithnolid. A channel that I'm dedicated to working with not just bringing awareness to complex trauma and the day-to-day realities of it, but also really starting to delve into ways you can support yourself to heal and learn things along the way that can help you understand what is going on and give you ideas and ways of creating an ecology that is supportive of you so that you can actually heal. Now, this is part 2 to the transference and countertransference. This is number 20. And in the previous video, I raised about transference and how much of a biological mechanism it is. And that's the challenging part, is it's not something that we heal. It's not something that we control or make it go away. To control it, we need to be vigilant and aware of it all the time, which feeds a heightened state, which is completely counterproductive, especially when we're looking at healing trauma. So awareness, learning it, is key. And when I talk about awareness, it's to the point of, having a common understanding of it. I guess it plays the same part as, driving a vehicle is a big responsibility, has complications, and there's a lot of things associated with it. But the majority of us, it becomes natural. We are aware as we drive. We are aware of our surroundings and what the vehicle is doing and so forth. It becomes a natural awareness without being super hyper vigilant. It's that kind of awareness that I'm talking about with this, because it's something that we need to keep an eye on quite regularly. Now, in the previous video, I talked about how, whatever the dominant part of our life is what we will transfer our importance of that life, that dominant part to, and our emotional expectations will go with it. But when we start to look at therapy, and this is one of the more challenging aspects of transference and countertransference, because it is completely normal to transfer to your therapist a lot of emotional expectation because you want help and they're advertised. You're paying them to help you heal. Now, the majority of therapists, overwhelming majority of therapists, have what I always refer to as the invisible desk. There is that invisible desk between the therapist and you. And that is put there through training, because they need to remain detached. They need to remain separate in an attempt to stop you emotionally transferring to them. And in reality, that is very, very rarely does that not happen. And without a level of transference and trust, then the therapy doesn't work, because there's too much of a barrier to get to the vulnerabilities required to address what you were there for in therapy to get help with. But it is keeping it in context. A therapist is there to help, guide, not do for you. And I guess that's the easiest context to remember. Is when a therapist is trained in whatever modalities you go to, are trained in a set of skills to make you aware, to guide you through, to point things out, to play devil's advocate in certain areas, and all these different things, to take you through exercises and activities and so forth and so forth. And it's to keep that in that perspective of they're a teacher, not your mom and dad, as an analogy. And, especially when you come from backgrounds like my own, my primary attachment is as a mother or father, because I didn't have them. I was trafficked and sold as an infant. So that's the depth of transference that I monitor all the time. So if somebody, I put those expectations forward, and I need to be aware that I do that, so I keep them prospectively in check. And that's, I guess, what I'm trying to get through, in especially in this part 2, is this is not a mechanism we can control, but it's a mechanism that we can keep in perspective. And it's not just with therapy. It's with any interaction and relationship, friendship or romantic, is we will attach a level of transference to those interactions, regardless of how vigilant we are. And it's keeping it in the right perspective. Because with the countertransference, how they respond to that emotional expectation, that's where things tend to go awry. And as I said in many previous videos, it's not up to somebody else to fix. Yes, the perpetrators, but the chances of them fixing, slim to none. But the people that we have around us now, if they didn't create the trauma, they cannot fix it. They can merely see us and support us as we fix it ourselves, as we learn the skills and resources and tools and create the environments and have the exposures to those environments to heal ourselves. And I guess that's the primary context to take away from this video. It's our responsibility to heal ourselves, and we need to bring in these resources as we create our garden ecology to heal. We bring in the resources that we need and keep them in the relative contexts. It's also being mindful that it's, as I said, it is such a natural mechanism, so we need to steer it to attach to the environments that we choose it to, not the environments that we instinctively want to hand over to. Because, this is one of the goals of healing, is especially healing trauma, is taking back control of our own lives, of no longer being dictated to by a bunch of mechanisms we don't have control over. So it's choosing what we attach to. And if we don't have a lot of options, like in my current environment, in my environment for years, I grew up in poverty, I live in poverty. I don't have a lot of resources to create an ideal ecology. So I use my spirituality, my ceremonies, my prayers, and my rituals, and my engagements with nature as my priority environment to learn and to connect with. I spend time in the day with my lizards and my butterflies and my birds and so forth, with my prayers and offerings and all these little things that I do as a routine morning and night to be my positive primary environment, because every other environment has a whole bunch of stuff in it that's positive and not so positive. So I actively choose to create with what's available in my reality now. And it will evolve as my reality changes. But what's available in my reality now, how can I create a positive environment to transfer my needs to get the support as best I can with what I'm able to achieve now. And I guess that's the easiest way to work with transference and countertransference. As I said, yes, technically you can keep it in check, but you need to become so vigilant. And I did that for a long time. And the price tag is quite high. So to try to get it to a more natural flow is give yourself an environment that is positive, is supportive, and of your own choosing to be the dominant environment of your life. And no, computer gaming and that is not an environment to attach to. It's an environment that you escape to. I'm talking a physical environment that gives physical interactions. I'm not talking about looking at a screen, putting on headphones and isolating. That's a different that's a whole different can of worms there, and I probably will get into that in future videos should you guys ask. This has to be a physical environment where there's a level of chaos, there's a level of change. I don't know what critters are going to turn up. Sometimes the critters I got to deal with are not exactly friendly. Whether it's dealing with poisonous spiders or the odd snake here and there. But it's still an environment that gives back an emotional engagement because everything has emotions around me. So when keeping all of this, I know this is getting a little confusing, but keeping it all in mind, if we create an environment that we choose to transfer our emotional expectations to so we can learn them and understand what it is we're trying to heal and what exactly is going on behind, is a more positive way of working with the biological mechanisms of transference and countertransference than constantly having to monitor them. So if we keep that in mind, we can learn, like driving a car or a motorcycle, or a horse, we can learn to have a more natural way of working with such an intensely strong biological mechanism. And I'll delve into other aspects of transference and countertransference in future videos. But in this first one, this first really in depth one, is understanding how natural mechanism it is and learning to work with it, not just be vigilant of it. So as always, be kind, be gentle with yourselves. You are worth this time and the time it takes to heal. You are worth learning this stuff, and you can go as far down the rabbit holes as you choose. As always, I like your comments and questions, and please be safe, and I will see you next time. Ho.